Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 107.5 FM WSFD-LP Westfield.
Support for the community programming provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6 o'clock. You are listening to WSFD 107.5 FM on your dial, and you are watching WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I am your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board and our chief engineer, Pete Coles. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning.
So how are we doing this morning?
We're doing okay. It's been a crazy week.
It's been
a crazy week.
When has it not been a crazy week?
Well, over the weekend, we had the Boys and Girls Club half marathon.
Well, you know, it was interesting because I saw nothing advertised for that. Usually I get things in, not that I'm not running right now because I'm still recuperating then preparing for the next foot surgery. But still, I probably would have at least walked the 5K. But I saw the signs up the day before, about just a road race. The road was going to be closed for a road race. And then Grace mentioned it because she was up at Stanley Park. And she said we had to leave before the race started. And I said, I don't know which race it was. So Boys and Girls Club.
All right. It was their half marathon. Yeah.
Okay. Did they have a good turnout for that?
I think so, yeah.
Good. Okay.
Both seemed like he was pretty happy with it.
Good.
So.
Okay. Well, I'm glad about that. Hopefully by next year, because that'll be a year from now,
right.
Hopefully all the foot surgeries will be done and I'll be back to running. And because I really enjoyed that race. And that was actually the only... They do a 5K, a 10K, and a half marathon.
Correct.
And that was the only 10K that I've ever done. It was great. I did really well, and that was on my bucket list. It was one of my goals. I wanted to be able to do a 10K. I had always just done 5, but I kept increasing my running distance.
Yep.
Not fast, but just increasing the distance. And so a few years ago, they did it when they were doing all the construction on Western Avenue. They did the route through, they did the bike path. So Gary said to me that year, well, if there's ever a good year to do the 10K, it's on the bike path. It's all flat.
Right, because it's flat as a board.
It's all flat. And it was all shady. And they did it that year they did it in September. So it was a really nice time of the year. So it was a great time to do it.
That was probably during the COVID times.
I'm sure that it was, Pete.
2022 maybe, 21.
Could have been.
Yeah, so we were over there with the truck, and we tried to do a live stream, but I thought it was going to crap out because of the playing copyrighted music and stuff.
Yeah.
If I ran it without sound, it would have been fine.
Okay.
That's the problem.
Yeah, right, exactly. Oh, we could run it without sound.
Yeah.
Okay. So who was over there with you? You said we.
Jared Fonska from the Boys and Girls Club. He runs their studio, and he does their e-gaming stuff.
How is that going? Because I remember when that first started. How are they doing with their studio over there, Pete?
They're trying.
Okay,
It's tough to get, just like the same problems I have here.
Yeah.
It's tough to get people interested in helping you.
That's
what I'm running into.
I find this amazing and incredible all at the same time because I would just think that
nobody wants to do anything now.
I guess because, man, if I had this opportunity when I was, in high school, it would have been, how cool is this?
Yep.
I really am perplexed.
Yep, me too.
Don't get it.
But I know that Jake wants to do baseball on Friday. Mm-hmm. I'm like, do you have a crew? Yeah, I got a crew. I'm like, okay.
All right.
I said, he wants to use the truck because it's a new shiny.
Of course.
But there's nowhere to put the truck at Bullens Field.
Okay.
And we did a complete World Series controlling it from this room where I'm sitting.
Yep. I recall.
So when I told him we can do that,
Yeah.
Well, that's how it's going to have to be. And if you don't
Right.
like it, then just move on.
Then you won't do it. Right. Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like gotta
I know.
be
I get it.
hard with these guys once in a
Yes.
while. It's like,
Yeah.
hey.
These are the realities of the world that we live in.
Right. There's nowhere to put the truck up there.
Yeah.
Safely.
Yes. Right.
Well, you could put it out in center field. Do you want it on cables all the way into the... No.
Right.
Just no. When we have a solution that works,
Yep.
the answer is no.
Yep. I get it.
Pretty
I get it, Pete.
simple.
Now, were you up at Mount Holyoke at all, or did you
yeah,
not?
Sunday.
You were. Oh, you were. You were there on Sunday. I was
Yep.
busy switching Gary's summer and winter clothes on Sunday.
Not your own? Just
No,
his?
not my. I start with him. Because he has more clothes than Grace, Charlie, and me put together.
Really?
And it isn't that Gary he doesn't buy them, but it's first of all he won't get rid of anything, and
I understand that.
most of his clothes are in good shape. He'll get rid of them if they're fallen off or lousy or whatever. But the reality is that most of his clothes are in good shape. He still has clothes that his mother gave him for presents, and his mom's been gone for many years now.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a process. Every year we thin a little bit. We get rid of a few things that he allows me to get rid of. Even though I said to him, Gary, I know these are in great shape, but you just have so much that you haven't worn. And honestly, you know what, Pete? Now everyone is so casual. Like when he goes to work, it's mostly kind of wind
Polo.
pants and a nice polo shirt, a nice golf shirt.
Yeah.
So and all the golf shirts now are dry fit. They're just so nice. They're easy to wash and wear, and so. Some of these dressier clothes, even his khakis, he doesn't wear them that often. So we're going through all those. So I will do mine. It takes me half the time to do my own. Well, plus with mine, I can there are no decisions to be made because I just do it right away. Didn't wear that in a while, out it goes. That one, okay. This is going here, this is going there. And Grace does hers and Charlie. She worries about her own. So I'll do mine. And I'm glad I did his. It's sooner than I normally would start switching clothes around, but I'm having my second foot surgery coming up in early May. So
You need to get done
all
now.
has to be done ahead of time. Just like at Christmas time, all the Christmas shopping was done by the end of Thanksgiving because the other foot surgery was early December. So
Sure, yeah.
it is a great motivator for getting things done. That is for certain. But anyway, so that was that. But now I'm really glad I did his because what the heck, 80 degrees, the last few days. So
Yeah, exactly.
he's been happy to have his
all of a
shorts
sudden,
and stuff out.
Somebody flipped a switch.
I know. This reminds me of when Gary and I lived in Iowa when he was going to chiropractic school. Iowa has virtually no spring and no fall. They've got long summers and long winters. And the winters are ridiculously cold and icy and gray, and the summers are ridiculously long and hot and humid. And spring and fall are kind of like the rainy season, and they last like 2 to 3 weeks, and then that's it. So that's what this reminded me of. I'm like, wait, we want spring, I like that 60s, weather in temps in the 50s and 60s. That's okay with me. I'm all about it. So now, and I never know what my office is going to be. Yesterday, my office was 90. Last week, it was in the, 70. It depends on the air conditioning and the heat and whatever it decides to do. So, so I have assorted jackets and layers and, we just go with the flow.
By the way, beautiful sunrise out there this morning.
It is gorgeous. I know. Thank you. It was just starting to come up when I left the senior center.
that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Beautiful. And it's for those of you who are wondering, it was 55 degrees this morning when I left West Springfield and all the way into Westfield, and still when I came here. So there's your temperature. But it is going up to 80 today, right? It's good.
Yeah, mid-70s, mid to
Yeah.
high 70s, I think is what
All
he
right.
said.
But it's chilly in here. So
I know.
Yeah,
You
know.
can't,
I know.
It was warm in the control room until I opened the door, and now the air's flowing out through that
Right.
hole,
Right.
the pass-through hole.
Yep.
And my legs are cold.
Yeah. And
I might put my sweatshirt back on.
Right. And the thing is that I know I have 2 jackets. I have a lighter weight one. So if in an hour I may be in that one, because what tends to happen in here is it starts one way and then ends up 2 hours from now. It's a different temperature entirely. So who knows?
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
And it's been busy. Like I said, Monday we had a softball field dedication at the high school.
Oh, okay.
And then we had a school committee meeting 2 hours later.
It was that the budget one, or is
and it was here. So it was a truck shoot,
okay, yes.
and I called in the troops, and my part-timer Justin helped, and Kenny came up and helped.
Okay.
And then Brady stopped by, and then tearing it down was just me and Justin. So it took us a little bit longer. But yeah, people don't realize for a 1 hour meeting, it's 2 hours of setup.
Well, it's
solid.
Yeah. It's just like show prep. For a 2 hour show, it's 3 hours of prep for me at least. That's just,
you have it down pat.
Yeah. But, right. It could be more. It used to be more. It used to take me like 4 hours.
I think Bobby says he does like 4 hours.
Yeah. And that's about right. You're right. I kind of have it down pat. And I've been doing it so long now that I can go back and recycle some stuff from past years, depending. And I do that occasionally. And then just update. It's easier to kind of recycle some and update. So I was talking to Bruce Marshall on Monday. He came out for a meeting. We're going to be doing a car show at the Senior Center in June on a Sunday morning, so that should be kind of fun. But anyway, Bruce was out there to meet with Joanne Boucher, our assistant director, and myself, and get all the logistics. Anyway, I was telling him how much I enjoy the show on his station called Remember Then. It's on Sunday nights from 6 to 9, and it's a lot of music from the 40s and 50s and 60s and beyond, and then a lot of show tunes and things like that. And I was telling him how, my family is awed by the fact that they play all these songs and I know all the lyrics to all of these songs because we still listen to a lot of that music.
Grew up with,
It's what I grew up with. So Bruce said to me, so I told him, I said, well, when Misty Monroe, who hosts that show, is ready to retire, I said, that would be my dream job. I could host Remember Then. And Bruce said, well, you should talk to Pete and you should do that show. Pete's looking for new shows and stuff. And I said, Bruce, I said, it would be a great show. It would be so much fun to do. I said, and one more thing on my plate, my family would throw me out of the house. I said,
we could record them.
Well, we could record them, but again, it's the prep time. That's where it is. It's the prep time. But anyway, maybe down the road. But it's great.
I'm still trying to get Jay in here to record stuff he wants to revive his show, and I'm like, we'll just come in here and record even generic stuff.
Yeah.
That I could run around it, and he doesn't even have time for that.
Does he want to? Which show does he want? Because he did
old time radio.
Okay. Yeah, with the stories and all of that. Yeah. Okay, all right. Because he had also done. Remember when we first started, Pete, and we were at the college? He used to bring in local talent,
right?
And he would do those kinds of things as well. So,
right, and that kind of
Friday
evolved
morning.
into the old time Milton Berle and all those kind of radio shows.
Yeah, and he was playing, I don't know, some of the series. The Shadow, only the Shadow knows and all that. I know, it was fun stuff.
Yep.
Good stuff. Anyway, okay, let's do one birthday before we take our first break so that you know why I chose this song. This is a great guy to have a birthday because he was a mastering engineer for a ton of musicians. His name is George Marino. He was born on this date in 1947 in the Bronx, New York. Passed away at the age of 65 in 2012, but George Marino broke into the music business as a guitarist, playing rock and roll in local New York City bands, such as the Chancellors and the New Sounds Limited, until most of the band members were drafted into the service for the war in Vietnam. In 1967, Marino landed his first job in the industry as a librarian and assistant at Capitol Studios. Soon after that, he apprenticed in the mastering department alongside of Joe Lansky, cutting rock, pop, jazz, and classical albums. During his time at Capitol, Marino mastered such classics as the Beatles' singles of Hey Jude. When Capitol Records closed its New York studio in 1971, George Marino joined the fledgling record plant, that was the name of the company, eventually becoming a partner in the mastering business of the record plant. From 1973 until his death in 2012, George Marino worked at Sterling Sound, and over the course of his nearly 40 years with Sterling, he mastered or remastered albums by AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, Guns N' Roses, Whitney Houston, Coldplay, Cyndi Lauper, Journey, Kiss, Motley Crue, The Cars, Bon Jovi, Dan Fogelberg, Jimi Hendrix, Michael Bublé, Alice Cooper, Tommy James and the Shondells, Bob Dylan, John Mellencamp, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Ringo Starr, Santana, Josh Groban, Southside Johnny, Willie Nile, Elvis Presley, and hundreds of others. So by doing this guy's birthday, of course, that opened up, like I could play just about any song from any of these artists, which would be, which was kind of fun. But Pete, can you explain for my ignorant brain here, what does a music mastering engineer do? What is that? Or you'll see if you click on YouTube, sometimes you'll see a song that I'll see a song that I've chosen and it says remastered. What does that mean?
So I think what the mastering guy does is the final mix down from all the raw tracks. Like he takes the multi-track,
okay, and
mixes it down,
like puts it all together,
right? Okay. Well, mixes it down to a stereo 2-track thing that you can play wherever.
Okay.
I think that's what that is.
Okay, and if something is remastered, what the only thing
they take the original tapes
and clean them up,
yeah. And then they, sometimes it's new processing gear that they run them through.
Okay.
A lot of people reissued stuff for CD.
Yeah,
because it was better quality than the original.
Albums,
so you heard stuff remastered, and sometimes they'll tweak them, like it's a different guy remastering it, so it sounds a little different.
Okay.
But yeah, a lot of people reissued remasters and things like that.
Yep, just sort of better quality.
The big thing about Taylor Swift was she couldn't get any of her early stuff because the guy she came up with, the first record company, held all the master tapes.
See. Okay.
And so instead of fighting him or paying him, she just re-recorded everything.
Yes, I did hear that story.
So she re-recorded, made new masters.
Okay.
And now she had control over her entire catalog.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, now that we know all about remastering and mastering and George Marino, we're going to take our first break. It is 6:16. You are listening to WSFD 107.5 FM on your dial. And you're watching cable channel 15, WCPC. So this is in honor of George Marino's birthday. I chose one of John Mellencamp's. We're going to listen to Hurt So Good. We'll be back.
When I was a young boy, Support for community programming provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. Visit bettsplumbing.com or 14 Coleman Avenue, Westfield. Public welcome.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday, every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio.
107.5 FM, WSFD.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 107.5 FM, WSFD-LP, Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:20. You are listening to WSFD 107.5 FM on your dial. And you're watching Cable Channel 15, WCPC. My name is Tina Gorman. I am your Wake Up Wednesday host. I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board and our chief engineer, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So today is April 15th, and on this day in 1924, the Titanic sinks. On April 10th, the RMS Titanic, one of the largest and most luxurious ocean liners ever built, departed Southampton, England on its maiden voyage across the Atlantic Ocean. The Titanic was designed by the Irish shipbuilder William Peary and built in Belfast. It was thought to be the world's fastest ship. It spanned 883 feet from stern to bow, and its hull was divided into 16 compartments that were presumed to be watertight. Because 4 of these compartments could be flooded without causing a critical loss of buoyancy, the Titanic was considered unsinkable. On its first journey across the highly competitive Atlantic ferry route, the ship carried some 2,200 passengers and crew. After stops at France and Ireland to pick up some final passengers, the massive vessel set out at full speed for New York City. However, just before midnight on April 14th, the RMS Titanic failed to divert its course from an iceberg and ruptured at least 5 of its hull compartments. These compartments filled with water and pulled down the bow of the ship. Because the Titanic's compartments were not capped at the top, water from the ruptured compartments filled each succeeding compartment, causing the bow to sink and the stern to be raised up to an almost vertical position above the water. Then the Titanic broke in half, and at about 2:20 a.m. on April 15th, stern and bow sank to the ocean floor. Because of a shortage of lifeboats and the lack of satisfactory emergency procedures, more than 1,500 people went down in the sinking ship or froze to death in the icy North Atlantic waters. Most of the 700 or so survivors were women and children. So that's that. Now, interesting little tidbit about the Titanic. So my high school English teacher, Charlie Haas, did a lot of research on the Titanic, and he wrote several books. He was actually featured on 60 Minutes several years ago. And when Gary and I were in Ireland pre-pandemic, so I think it was 2018 or 19, we went to Belfast, and we went to the Titanic Museum, which is, if ever anyone is in Belfast, I would highly recommend the museum. It's really interesting. And afterward, we went into their little gift shop, and there on the shelf was a book, one of the books by Charlie Haas. And I saw Mr. Haas, because he'll always be Mr. Haas to me, because he was my high school English teacher. And we saw him at our 25th class reunion in the fall, and we told him about that experience. He's in his 80s now, and he was really excited to hear that. I said, we were all the way across the pond and found your book in the Titanic Museum. So anyway, that's that. Now, today, April 15th, on a completely different note that has nothing to do with boats.
By the way, have you ever been to the Titanic Museum in Springfield?
I have not, but I've heard about it because I feel like you told me about it. Is it in Springfield or Ludlow?
Indian Orchard.
Indian Orchard, okay.
Back of a jewelry shop. I think the jewelry shop's still there.
Okay.
I know the guy who started it, I think, has passed.
Okay.
But I think his son still runs the business.
We got to look that up. You know what, Pete? I totally forgot about that, and I have never been there.
There used to be a Titanic convention that came here every year. Yeah, oh yeah. I remember that when I worked at Channel 40, we had to cover it.
I'm on it. We got to look up that. We'll look that up because I think Gary would be interested in that too. Like I could definitely get him to go with me on that. All right. Yeah. Well, I wasn't that far off because I said to I thought it was in Ludlow, but close.
There's also one in Pigeon Forge with a partial replica of the Titanic it's built into.
Okay. All right. We'll check it out.
And Springfield is the Titanic Historical Society.
Okay.
That's where it's based.
Okay.
And it's open today from 10 to 4.
There you go. Wow. All right. I gotta check that out. That might require a field trip, a Gorman field trip.
Yep.
All right, April 15th, today is National Laundry Day. Now, given the fact that I was switching around summer and winter clothes, I did like 8 loads of laundry. Because here's the one problem with my husband. See, when I know I'm going to be doing this, I start like making sure that everything's clean because I never put anything away for a season unless it's been cleaned and, all that stuff. But Gary, it's, wear it, hang it up. I might use it again. So anyway, lots of laundry. So National Laundry Day, let's talk about this. Ever since human beings have been wearing clothes, okay, that was like Adam and Eve, there has been a tandem need to do laundry. The first washing machine to use a drum was built by a man named James King way back in 1851. Prior to that time, washing laundry was a manual process. James King's patent introduced a hand-powered drum washer, a significant step toward modern machines because clothes could be tumbled in a rotating cylinder rather than scrubbed solely by hand, individually, like each one. So that was the first time you could actually wash more than one garment at a time. In 1908, the Hurley Machine Company introduced the Thor, designed by Alva J. Fisher, often cited as the first mass-produced electric washing machine, marking a turning point in automating household laundry. From the 1930s to the 1950s, fully automatic electric washers and vented tumble dryers became commercially available and then widespread in both North America and Europe. And that shifted laundry, think about it, from an all-day manual chore to a routine household task. Because prior to that, and I can remember as a kid, this was back in the early 60s, my grandmother still had a Wringer washing machine. So laundry day truly was laundry day. It took the entire day. Like she started, she would do all the change the sheets on the bed. She would do the towels. And then, of course, and my grandfather was a sheet metal worker. So he was, going through shirts and, jeans and all that kind of stuff. Wringer washing machine. And then she would hang them out on the line. Monday was wash day. And that's all you did on Monday was laundry. All right. Now, here are some frequently asked questions about laundry. And I think some of these questions are actually really good. So what water temperature should be used for different types of laundry? So the answer to that is hot water is best for heavily soiled items, linens, and whites that can tolerate it. Warm water works for most everyday colored loads, and then cold water is safest for darks, brights, and delicate fabrics. Many detergents are now formulated to clean effectively in cold water, which also helps prevent shrinkage, color bleeding, and fabric wear while saving energy. Care labels on garments should always be checked first, since some fabrics like wool or silk can be damaged by hot or even warm water. So here's a funny story that I'll tell you about my brother. My brother, Mike, my oldest brother, is a retired chemist, and he worked for many years for Procter & Gamble. And he was in the cleaning and laundry division. So at one point, he was working on the pods, the laundry pods. So they've been around for a long time, but
2 decades.
Yes,
I think, yeah.
Right. But Mike worked for P&G for over 30 years. So they were trying. So he was tasked with coming up with a pod for one of the Procter & Gamble products that they wanted to be able to use it in cold water. Now the thing about a pod is it has to be able to dissolve. So that became the trick. It's like how do you get
a plastic to melt in cold water?
You can obviously do it in hot water or even warm water. But anyway, so Mike was working on this project, so he would go to the higher ups and do the demonstration. So at one point he did the demonstration. He thought that they had pretty much solved the problem, and they had for most cold water. However, his supervisors said, the problem is, what if the water temperature is colder than what you've been using? Because not all cold water is, made equally in people's homes. So, okay, back to the drawing board they went. So he finally perfected this. And when he did his last demonstration for this, and I want to say I think the product was all, because I think it was all temperature all. Mike said they obviously had a washing machine where they were doing this demonstration. So he said he took the washing machine, he filled it half full with cold water, and then he put like 4 buckets of ice cubes in the washing machine. And he said, okay, you are never going to get water out of your tap that's going to be colder than this.
It'd have to be below freezing.
Right. So he said, so if I can get this pod to, dissolve in this, which he did, he said, then we know it's ready for market. And that's what happened. So how's that for a cool story?
Yeah.
I used to love his P&G stories. I loved his marketing stories. He helped to invent, he holds like 1 million patents. He's got a bunch of patents for P&G, but he helped to invent liquid Tide. Because prior to that, go way back when he first started, laundry detergent was all powder.
Yeah.
So he's been through that. He's been through the pods, the liquids. All right. So here's this one. What are the common mistakes that people make with laundry that can damage clothing? So listen carefully. Frequent problems include using too much detergent, which I know Mike has told me that, and that can leave a residue and stiffen fabrics, and ignoring care labels that specify water temperature and cycle type. I'm a nutcase on reading the labels. I mean, sometimes I'll try to get away with not exactly following the labels, especially if it says hand wash. Like, I don't hand wash anything, but I'll put it in a delicate basket. I'll wash it on a delicate cycle in cold water, and I'm usually fine. Washing heavily soiled items with delicate fabrics, that doesn't work well. Overloading the machine, that does not work well. Or skipping zipper fastening and turning garments inside out can cause pilling, fading, and tears. So make sure that when you're washing your clothes, especially if you're new to doing them, you college students and high school students and so forth, you want to make sure your stuff is zippered, because otherwise they catch on some of your clothing. You'll ruin your other clothing. And I'm a nutcase too for turning my garments inside out if they have any kind of printing. Not embroidery, doesn't matter, but printing on them, turn them inside out. The printing will last way longer in the washer and dryer. High heat, this is another thing that can damage laundry. So high heat in both washing and drying can shrink or weaken fibers, especially in wool, cotton, and synthetic performance fabrics. Using appropriate cycles, not crowding the drum, and reading garment instructions help to extend clothing life. And I will also give you another tip that Mike gave me years ago. If you have, because we have a lot of athletes, who listen to the show, people who use like the dry fit material. Dry fit, my sister-in-law used to say, oh, you can't put dry fit in the dryer. And my brother Mike said, oh, you absolutely can put dry fit in the dryer. What you cannot do is use dryer sheets with dry fit materials, because it'll undo whatever the dry fit material is. So you can throw them in the dryer, like on just on a sort of a delicate cycle, but don't use dryer sheets with your dry fit, like your athletic wear. All right, now here is the one that Grace and I found particularly interesting, because we were discussing this yesterday. At what age can children safely start helping with laundry, and what tasks are appropriate? Well, you might be surprised to find that child development specialists suggest that laundry tasks should match a child's age and abilities. Younger children, 2 to 5, can help put clothes in the hamper, and they can sort darks from lights with supervision. Now, I will also add, because my granddaughter is not yet 3 and has been helping me with laundry since she could walk, because I used to just have her help take the stuff out of the dryer, like especially the socks and little things that she could, and bring them over to the bedroom so we could put them up, because my washer and dryer is upstairs on the 2nd floor. So, Charlie would help bring those things. And that now she sorts the socks, yes, her own especially, because, they're different colors. So helps with that. Okay. School-age children, so roughly 6 to 9 years old, can learn to sort loads, measure detergent, and move items between the washer and the dryer when closely guided. Yeah, I've had Charlie helping move things from the washer to the dryer for over a year. Mm-hmm. And as Grace said, Charlie knows, she likes to push the buttons, and she knows which button to start the washer And she's getting good at that. All right, now by 10 to 12, so by the ages of 10 to 12, many children really are able to run a basic load independently, provided that they understand the safety rules, such as not climbing into the washing machine or the dryer, and keeping the detergents out of the reach of their younger siblings. Parents should obviously always adjust expectations based on the child's maturity and the specific appliances that you have in your home, the type of washer and dryer. And here's your final question. How often do clothes actually need to be washed? Well, how frequently clothing should be laundered depends on the type of garment, activity level, and personal preference. So items that are worn close to the body, such as underwear, socks, and workout gear, generally need washing after each use due to sweat and bacteria. Shirts and blouses often need washing after 1 or 2 wears, while jeans, sweaters, and jackets can sometimes be worn several times if they are not visibly soiled and do not smell. So here is my plea to all of my older people that are watching the show. My problem with a lot of older people is your sense of smell changes as you age, and it actually diminishes as you age. So I find that sometimes with some of my seniors, if they don't see any spots or spills, it's like, okay, I can wear this again. But they're not necessarily smelling it, and especially in the summer. You need to be really careful about that because you do sweat. Your garments start to, hold that odor. And the problem is if you wait too long, and I've told this to even my family, like Gary will say, well, I'll wear that again because I'm just going to be out in the yard working. Except that if the odor is in there too long, it's really hard to get out of the wash. It's just, I have to wash it twice anyway.
Isn't that what like that OxyClean stuff would help with stuff like that?
I think, yeah, sometimes borax, they say borax will help. Yep. I've talked to my brother Mike about that. And I said to him, like, I use Tide, but I said, so which one for odors? There are different odor ones. He said there's Tide Sport, but he said actually Tide with Bleach Alternative or now I think they've renamed it Tide White, which you can use on colors. So I don't know why they renamed it. Yeah. That really helps.
I think that's what it's got. It's OxyClean in it.
Yeah.
I think that's what they use in it now.
Yep. Dermatologists note that overwashing can cause fabrics to wear out faster and sometimes irritate sensitive skin. So a balance between cleanliness, odor control, and garment care is recommended. But anyway, lots of good laundry tips. All right, it is 6:37. You are listening to WSFD 107.5 FM on your dial, and you are watching WCPC Cable Channel 15. So in honor of the anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic, no, I'm not playing Celine Dion's "My Heart Will Go On," but I found a different song.
I know how to go find this one.
I know. I wanted a different one. So this is by Loretta Lynn, and it is actually the story. It's called "The Titanic," so it's the country version.
The sun shone down in its glory, shone down on the deep blue sea, where the Titanic was sinking, far out on the deep blue sea. The captain was lying down sleeping when he dreamed a sad, sad dream. He dreamed the Titanic was sinking, far out on the deep blue sea. He rose and he called to the rich men. He told them to come to life and save their little babies, also their darling wives. The captain, he must have been drinking, for he knew that he had done wrong. He was trying to win a record when he let the Titanic go down. Before the news reached the homeland, the great Titanic went down. The women and children and orphans was walking all over the town. The children was crying, dear mother has gone to stay. But maybe it'll turn to something that'll raise the Titanic someday. The band was at its playing far out on the deep blue sea. While the Titanic was sinking, they played Never, My God, to Thee. But while the Titanic was sinking, they fell upon their knees and cried, "Oh Lord, have mercy, what's going to come of me?"
Underwriting is brought to you by Boise Cascade Distribution, providing products and services needed for building material dealers, home improvement centers, and industrial customers. They offer everything from engineered wood and plywood to Drex decking and railing, James Hardie siding, and Advantech subfloor. Located at 33 Fowler Street Extension in Westfield and on the web at bc.com, they are committed to providing quality products, great service, convenience, and value.
Listen to me, Michael Buster McMahon, Mondays 8 to 10 a.m. to learn the stories behind your favorite songs. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you.
Community Radio.
107.5 FM WSFD. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 107.5 FM WSFD-LP Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:41. You're listening to WSFD 107.5 FM on your dial, and you are watching Cable Channel 15 WCPC. My name is Tina Gorman. I am your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board and our chief engineer, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So April is National Jazz Appreciation Month, so we have to talk about this because we have the jazz combo, the Westfield High School Jazz Combo. Westfield High School Jazz Combo.
Yep.
Will be coming. Yeah, I know. There are different jazz bands up there, so I wanted to make sure I got the right one. They will be performing at the Senior Center. They're doing our breakfast bonus this Friday. So let's talk about National Jazz Appreciation Month. Then we'll talk about Friday morning's breakfast and how you can sign up for it. National Jazz Appreciation Month, or JAM, J-A-M, get it, celebrates the heritage and history of jazz. Developed from the sounds of blues and ragtime, jazz music originated in New Orleans during the 1920s. Jazz artists have long been America's greatest cultural ambassadors by advancing freedom, creativity, and unity through their art. In support of this uniquely Black American art form, Jazz Appreciation Month was founded by Smithsonian curator John Edward Hassey in 2001. The exciting history of jazz takes us through the Deep South, along back roads and into the big cities all across the United States and then the world. The thrum of the bass and sizzle of the snare make the nightclubs dazzle just a little more against the brass and lights. Growing out of the Deep South and working its way up the Mississippi Delta, jazz influenced musicians along the way. As it grew, it inspired more improvisation, and as a result, new methods formed and new styles of music too. Music and jazz were developing and changing quickly. The impact of jazz on the country was profound. Kick back and listen to the sound of history as you listen to Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Ella Fitzgerald, Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, or any modern-day jazz musician. Let the music move you. So that's what we're going to do on Friday morning. The Westfield High School Jazz Combo will be performing from 8:30 to 9:30. You can enjoy live music, live entertainment while you settle in for a delicious breakfast. You do want to, if you haven't called in for your reservation, I can tell you right, there is a cap because we can only fit so many in the room, and we are fast approaching that cap. That number is swelling because I checked yesterday. I thought, well, let me just check and make sure we still have some breakfast left. We do, but I would suggest that you call today if you want to get a breakfast. You do have to reserve at least a day in advance, so by noon of the previous day. So it would be by noon tomorrow, but honestly, I'm not sure if we're going to have any slots left after today. So we thank Patrick Kennedy and the Jazz Combo, and we thank Kerry Cipolletta and the middle school choral group. They were there. They did our our breakfast bonus last week. We're doing back-to-back breakfast bonuses.
Okay.
Because of, we're getting to the end of the school year and, school vacation coming up and all that. Carrie's group, we thought... it was the middle school. We figured, so the kitchen asked us, because we had cookies and stuff for them after they performed, and the kitchen said, how many students? And, Joanne and I said, we figure probably like 20 to 25. There were almost 60 students on that stage. Oops. It was fine. We had plenty of cookies. We just made up another tray. But they were fabulous. When they opened up their mouths to sing, the first chord came out, and it sounded like I was sitting next to Superintendent Zaporowski, and Stefan leaned over and he said, they sound like they're in high school, and they did. They were great. They chose great music, and they walked over from the middle school. So this parade of students, but it was just fabulous. And we expect that this Friday with the Jazz Combo Band, it'll be just as fabulous, different kind of music, but we're really excited to have them back. And it was actually the jazz band that started the whole breakfast bonus concept last year when they came after they had that power outage at the high school on the day they were supposed to perform for the seniors. So that's what got the whole thing started. So we're pretty excited about that. All right. On this day, April 15th in 1865, Abraham Lincoln died. The president was shot at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. on April 14th. Okay, the evening of April 14th, 1865. But here's a little trivia. Pete, you're a trivia guy, so you may already know this, but I didn't know it. At the time, many people felt that a theater was not a proper place for a president to die. The White House was only 6 blocks away from the theater, but a bumpy carriage ride on Washington's unpaved streets might kill Lincoln immediately. So after he was shot, soldiers carried Lincoln down the stairs of the theater and out onto 10th Street. Standing on the Peterson boarding house stoop, which was across the street from the theater, Henry Safford had heard the commotion. He knew that Willie Clark, a fellow boarder at the boarding house, was out for the night and his room was vacant. He yelled to the soldiers, "Bring him in here," and that's what they did.
Yep.
So they actually carried. You knew that, right, Pete? I mean,
I just heard that recently.
Yeah.
That you can still tour the room and see the bloodstains.
Yeah, can you really?
Yes.
I think that would be. I never heard this story. So they took Lincoln into this boarding house across the street from the theater in the front parlor. First Lady Mary Lincoln waited in the front parlor. First Lady Mary Lincoln awaited word of her husband. She occasionally ventured in to visit with him. In the back parlor, Secretary of War Edwin Stanton interrogated witnesses and directed the investigation. Outside, thousands of people crowded onto 10th Street and kept vigil through the night. President Abraham Lincoln died at 7:22 on April 15th, 1865. Mary Lincoln was not in the room with him. Soldiers quickly removed his body to the White House for an autopsy and to prepare for a funeral. So that was at 7:22. At 11 o'clock, Vice President Andrew Johnson took the oath of office as the 17th president. And now, as Paul Harvey would say, you know the rest of the story. I had not heard that at all. All right, it is 6:48. You are listening to WSFD 107.5 FM on your dial, and you're watching cable channel 15, WCPC. So recall that we discussed a bunch of stuff about laundry. It is National Laundry Day, so we are going to listen to Carrie Underwood singing Dirty Laundry. We'll be back.
On your collar, well, it ain't my shade of pink, and I can tell by the smell of that perfume it's like $40 too cheap. And there's a little wine stain on the pocket of your white cotton thread. Well, you drink beer and whiskey, boy, and you know I don't drink red. Found it over in the corner, wadded up on the bedroom floor. You should have hid it in a closet, you should have burned it, you should have lost it. And now I won't have to hang you out to try. Clothespin all your secrets to the line. Label glowing in the wind to say goodbye to you. tell him every little detail, how you drug me through the mud. I'm gonna string up your old button down and slide it on the porch, just in case you get the nerve to come knocking on my door. Yeah, I don't have to hang you out to try. Go spit all your secrets to the line. Leave a glowing in the way to say goodbye to you. All those midnights sneaking in, I'm late again. Oh, I'm so sorry. All the Ajax in the world ain't gonna clean your dirty laundry. Found it over in the corner, wadded up on the bedroom floor. You should have hid it in a closet, you should have burned it, you should have lost it. Now I'll have to hang you out to try. Close spit all your secrets to the line. Leave a glowing in the wind to say goodbye to you. All those midnights sneaking in, I'm late again. Oh, I'm so sorry. All the Ajax in the world ain't gonna clean your dirty laundry.
Underwriting for the community programming is provided by the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield, serving the youth of the Whip City and surrounding communities since 1969. For more information on the Great Futures Club for ages 3 to 5, happening weekdays, and the Club Teen Center for ages 11 and older, weekdays from 6:30 till 8 p.m., go online at bcgwestfield.org or visit the club at 28 West Silver Street. The Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield. Great futures start here.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday, every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio.
107.5 FM, WSFD.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 107.5 FM, WSFD-LP, Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:52. You are listening to WSFD 107.5 FM on your dial. You are watching Cable Channel 15, WCPC. My name is Tina Gorman. I am your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board and our chief engineer, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So April 10th to April 15th is World Music Therapy Week. Helping people of all ages accomplish individualized goals, music therapy is a healthcare process that can take all sorts of forms based on the needs of the client. Approaches might include making music, listening to music, writing songs, improvisation, group discussion, or even meditation. Trained therapists use different forms of music to promote health and well-being mentally, emotionally, and physically. World Music Therapy Week works to improve public awareness and knowledge about music therapy while showing appreciation to professionals, students, supporters, and clients. While some might think that music therapy is a new career, and it certainly has been growing in scope and popularity in recent years, this form of therapy has been around for quite some time. In fact, music therapy dates back more than 2 centuries to the late 1700s, when the first record of reference to music therapy can be found. It was in 1950 that the National Association for Music Therapy was formed in the United States, building into the foundation of establishing this important approach to health as a profession. You know, music is powerful. It can induce relaxation. It can promote healing. It can enhance mental functioning, and it can create an overall sense of well-being. And the beauty of music is that it cuts through the boundaries of age, culture, disability, disease. Everyone responds to music, no matter how ill or disabled. Listening to music can produce changes in blood flow and blood pressure, can produce changes in breathing rate. It can produce changes in body posture, and it can produce changes in mood. And here are just a few little fun facts about music therapy. So music and speech. There's a part of the human brain where music just stays there. It just stays there. It cannot be removed, washed away, or erased. And that's why those with Alzheimer's disease and other dementias who have lost the ability to put phrases or sentences together or can't find the words that they're looking for can actually sing familiar songs, in some cases all the way through. And the same is true for some who have had strokes and who have problem with speech, which we call aphasia. Some people can sing familiar songs after a stroke, even when they can't produce fluid speech. Music and body movement. Music relaxes the mind and body and can effortlessly trigger such motor reflexes as digestion, bladder control, and movement of the limbs. Again, if you take someone with, say, Parkinson's disease, which is a neurological disease with lots of movement issues, same for some who have had strokes, if there are movement issues involved, the person in either case may walk in a fashion that's very uncoordinated. But when a person listens to rhythmic music, their muscle movement becomes synchronized with the beat. So sometimes it's easier for people who have had a stroke or who have Parkinson's to walk. It's called entrainment, when you're actually walking to a certain rhythm or a certain beat. And so their motions become more regular and efficient, and their motor skills improve. And the rhythm helps the person to sidestep all of the coordination processes that they're not able to think through. Because once you have something like that, if you've had a stroke, or even think about it, it happened to me when I had my foot surgery. Now you're thinking, okay, wait a minute. How do I get in and out of the bathtub, or how do I get in and out of the shower? I can't put any weight on this. So you have to think of everything. And that's the same with someone who's maybe had a stroke and is either paralyzed or has weakness on one side, someone with Parkinson's disease, where it's hard to think about, pick up this leg, pick up that leg, move the walker or the quad cane or whatever you're using. And music will sometimes you just kind of get into a rhythm and you're not thinking about it. You're just doing it. And so that's the idea behind music therapy. So lots of good stuff. There's a ton of information now on music therapy. So we are celebrating World Music Therapy Week this week. So all cool. All right, let's do a few announcements before our top of the hour break. And I know my guest is waiting. We have Jayda Handzel is here from Armbrook Village. We're going to chat with her after the top of the hour. But I do want to remind folks, today, Lynn Hills, our Senior Benefits Coordinator, is doing her first Rise and Shine Coffee Hour. She's going to be doing this on the third Wednesday of the month from 8:30 to 9:30 in the morning. So this month, it's this morning at the Senior Center. And it's just going to be a general update. You'll get updates and answers to your benefit-related questions. So anything having to do with health insurance, Medicare, Mass Health, the SNAP program, the food benefit program, our brown bag program, fuel assistance. She'll provide whatever updates because, believe it or not, those updates come to us fairly frequently. And there are times when, Lynn's sending me stuff all during the month saying, oh, can we put this in the newsletter? Can we put this in the newsletter? Well, some, yes, but we can't get it all in there because sometimes things are just happening so fast and changes. So she'll just be providing, it'll be very informal. Remember that coffee is 50 cents at the Senior Center, and you get, goodies to go with it. So it's well worth the 50 cents. So Lynn will be there this morning. No signups or anything like that. Just come on over 8:30 to 9:30. Tomorrow, I'm pretty excited about this. We have Westfield G&E coming, Gas and Electric Company, Whip City Fiber streaming workshop. So they're going to talk about popular streaming platforms. They're going to talk about tips for local and sports channels, smart TVs and devices, and troubleshooting some of the common issues that we hear the seniors talking about. This is actually open to the public. You do not have to be an older adult to attend. It's tomorrow, April 16th from 1 to 2:30. We're going to do it in the Great Room at the Senior Center. We have our great big smart TV in there. And it also seats plenty of people. So there's no pre-registration. all are welcome to attend, so don't hesitate. We already talked about the fact that Friday is our breakfast bonus with the Westfield High School Jazz Combo under the direction of Patrick Kennedy. Again, if you want to partake, you need to pre-register for that one. So make sure that you call us. Again, it's by noon tomorrow, but I don't know if there are going to be any. We may be filled to capacity. So call today, 562-6435, or just stop by the greeter's desk and tell Sandra or the volunteer who's working, I think that'll be Deb Murray today, that you want to join in on Friday. And a couple of other things. We have a lot happening this week. So Saturday of this week, so this Saturday is Shred Day. Okay, CSF Dollars, Westfield Dollars for Scholars. They are hosting their annual Shred Day at the Senior Center, 9 to 11, rain or shine. Senior Center parking lot. Remember to come in via Murphy Circle, and we'll have volunteers out just guiding people and reminding them. You can bring your boxes of documents to be shredded. It's $5 for each box, and you have a 3-box limit. So always a popular event. And it's a great fundraiser, but it's also, it really helps you to get your, Oh, and by the way, here's another little fun fact. Don't know if you know this one, Pete, because I just learned this myself.
Okay.
So I said to my family, all right, we got Shred Day coming up. Everybody, let's start going through. So Gary asked me, because he was filing this year's taxes, he said, Tina, how far back do we have to keep the hard copies of our taxes?
I believe it is 7 years.
No, it's 3. I asked Dan Welch. Now? It's only 3 because everything is so digital now. They have access to it. I mean, because I said to Gary, well, how far back do ours go? And he said, well, I'm holding one from 2004. I said, well, I'm pretty sure you don't have to keep them for 22 years, Gare. But I said, I will find out. So I texted Dan Welch, and he got back to me right away, and he said, nope, he said 3 years is recommended. So there you go. So I said to Gary, start packing, start boxing up those other, 20 years that we have of taxes. Mm-hmm. And then, again, just as a reminder, a week from Saturday. So this Saturday, we have the Shred event outside. Next Saturday, we have our Senior Safety Saturday. The Westfield Police Department will be on site to do their drug take-back. So we're doing that in my house too. Gathering up all those expired medications, prescription, over-the-counter, vitamins, pet medications, children's medications, you name it. Anything that's expired, we can get rid of those. We'll take liquids that are tightly sealed and vape pens as long as the batteries have been removed. We can't take syringes, intravenous solutions, or illicit drugs. And the Westfield Fire Department will also be on site. We'll be doing some fire and fall prevention. We'll have some items that we're giving out. We'll have File of Life packets if you need one of those. We'll have informational flyers. I think I'm going to focus on summer safety because we've got a really good fire prevention summer safety one with the warm weather coming up, like today. So we'll do that. All right. So that's what's happening over the next week or so. And then, there's more happening even after that, but we can talk about that next week. So let's take our top of the hour break. You are listening to WSFD 107.5 FM on your dial. You're watching cable channel 15. We will be back.
Support for the community programming provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Where will the superintendent spotlight shine next? Join Stefan Zaporowski and Chris Rogers every Thursday at 9 a.m. to find out. 107.5 FM WSFD. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 107.5 FM WSFD-LP Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:06. You are listening to WSFD 107.5 FM on your dial. You are watching Cable Channel 15 WCPC. My name is Tina Gorman. I am your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm no longer by myself here at the table. I have Jayda Handzel, right? Is that how you pronounce your last name? Jayda is the Director of Community Relations at Armbrook Village, so welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Good. Yeah, we're excited to have you. First time on the show, so that's always exciting. Mm-hmm. Before we get into talking to Jayda and getting a little bit about her background and a lot about Armbrook Village, because that's what our topic is for today, I have one more announcement that I forgot to make last hour. The Westfield Athenaeum is holding, the Friends of the Westfield Athenaeum is holding their book sale at the end of the month, next week, April 23rd, 24th, and 25th. But, you know, we're doing all this closet cleaning. We have Shred Day coming up. We have National Drug Take Back Day coming up at the Senior Center. So clean out your books, too, because that's the other thing. My car is loaded with books and puzzles from the Senior Center that, you know, they've all been read. They've all been done. So the Athenaeum is taking donations. They took them last week, and they're taking them this week, today, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and then that's it. So today and Friday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. over at the Methodist Church, right on the green. Tomorrow from 4 to 7 p.m. and then on Saturday morning from 9 to 12. So you can actually drop off your shredding stuff at the Senior Center from 9 to 11 and then head right over to the Methodist Church and drop off all your books and jigsaw puzzles. So they will accept gently used adult and children's books, DVDs, and jigsaw puzzles only. So they don't want any musty or damaged books. So don't clean out the basement, you know, from grandma and, you know, bring books that are moldy. They don't want encyclopedias or dictionaries or textbooks or manuals or any of that, travel books or self-help books. They don't want any of that. They want fun things that people want to read. All right. So anyway, that I had promised the Friends of the Athenaeum that I would make that announcement. And so I have. All right. Back to Jayda. So, first time on the show. We love having first-time people on the show because we don't know you. So you get to tell us all about yourself. So tell us a little bit about Jayda and where are you from and where do you live now and where did you go to school and how did you end up at Armbrook Village as your title is Director of Community Relations. And what I like to say to people is I'm sure when you were in the 3rd grade and your teacher said, what do you want to do when you grow up? I'm sure you didn't say, I want to be the Director of Community Relations at an assisted living facility.
Definitely not. Yeah.
So tell us about Jayda.
So I'm from Western Mass. I grew up in Palmer. I went to school there. And then I graduated. I went to Merrimack College in North Andover, which is just north of Boston. It's kind of on the New Hampshire border.
Okay.
Yeah, I graduated from there in 2021 with my degree in business administration, and I had concentrations in both marketing and management. And oddly enough, I also have a women's and gender studies minor.
That's not odd at all.
Yeah,
my daughter went to Westfield State, and I remember she took that as a class, as like one of her, you know, and loved it, and really considered minoring in that just because she just found it so fascinating.
It definitely is a fascinating topic, and I wish I could do kind of more with it. But I remember I had taken a couple classes in that kind of topic.
Sort of the genre.
Yeah, and the department head actually approached me and she's like, you know, if you take a few more of these classes, you can have a minor in it. And I was like, well, that sounds great. I love the topic and it's something I'm passionate about. So it was an easy decision there. But it's definitely, I encourage anybody to kind of study that. It's definitely an interesting field of study for sure.
Yeah. And I think anytime you end up minoring in something as kind of an extra, it just kind of adds to your, you know, it adds to the resume and also to your toolbox of what you never know what you're going to pull out later on. You know, depending on what your jobs are and where your journey takes you.
Yeah.
So now where do you live now?
Now I live in Hamden.
Okay.
Yep, with my husband.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a commute for me to Westfield, but that is A-okay because I love my job and I love where I'm at, so it's worth it.
How long have you been at Armbrook?
I've been at Armbrook over 3 years, going on 3.5 years. Yeah, but I've been in senior living since I graduated in 2021. I worked at a community out in Northampton for a couple of years, and then I transitioned to Armbrook Village.
So how did you get so you graduated from college, and how did you sort of end up in the senior living? How did that happen, Jayda?
Yeah, so I think like anybody, when you graduate college, I went back home and I was kind of just like applying to any kind of marketing, communications, management job that I could kind of find. And I had stumbled across a marketing, I think the position was like marketing assistant for a community in Northampton. And I've always grown up with very close relationships with the older adults in my life. My grandparents, I was fortunate enough to have my great-grandparents in my life until my 20s.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is very unusual.
It is. And I've always felt very lucky, and I've had very close relationships with all of them. So I was like, okay, you know what? Let me try this. And yeah, I was a marketing assistant there, and quickly, I think after about a year there, I became a marketing director there. And I found my hopefully permanent spot at Armbrook Village shortly thereafter. So
now, was that a big switch? You moved from the eastern part of the state to the western part of the state. Was that kind of a big deal move for you, or was that how did you feel? Very different communities.
Very different. I'm from Western Mass, so this was.
That's true. You're moving back.
Yeah, this was always home for me, and I knew I was going to come back. A lot of my friends that I went to school with, they stayed in the eastern part of the state.
Yep.
But I always knew that I wasn't really interested in that. I love the Pioneer Valley. I love Western Mass. It's my home. My family's here. A lot of my close friends are still here. So it's just always it pulled me back in.
Yeah. You know what? I was thinking that, I forgot. You started in Palmer, then went out to Merrimack, and then, and so then ended up coming back here. Well, we're glad that you did.
Yeah.
So you were not at Armbrook during the pandemic years, thankfully.
No, it was the 2021.
Post-pandemic, I refer to them. Okay. Yeah. Good. All right. Well, now that we know a little bit about you, let's take a breath. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to start focusing in on what you do at Armbrook and what is Armbrook all about, and assisted living and all those other good things.
Awesome.
So if you're just joining me, my guest this morning is Jayda Handzel. Jayda is the Director of Community Relations at Armbrook Village Assisted Living. So we're going to come back and talk more with her. Right now, it is Jazz Appreciation Month. We have the Westfield High School Jazz Combo coming to perform on Friday morning as part of our breakfast bonus program. So we got to listen to a jazz song. Now, here's the thing about jazz numbers, and Pete, you'll appreciate this. Most of them, I thought, okay, we'll listen to some Miles Davis or we'll listen to some Coltrane.
Later.
They're 9-minute songs. They're 12-minute songs. One of them was 13 minutes. I looked at what's the most popular jazz song? And it was Miles Davis, and the song was 9 minutes and 4 seconds. And I went, I can't play a 9-minute song. So anyway, we're going to listen to Duke Ellington, Take the A Train, because it's 3 minutes and 14 seconds. We'll be back.
Support for community programming provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. Visit bettsplumbing.com or 14 Coleman Avenue, Westfield. Public welcome.
Hi, this is Harry Rock, host of Rock on Westfield every fourth Wednesday at 8 a.m. Tune in for my view of this place I call home.
Community Radio.
107.5 FM WSFD. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 107.5 FM WSFD-LP Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:17. You are listening to WSFD 107.5 FM on your dial, and you are watching WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I am your Wake Up Wednesday host, and my guest this morning is Jayda Handzel. Jayda is Director of Community Relations at Armbrook Village. And welcome again, Jayda.
Thank you.
And I was asking Jayda off air if she had worked with Beth Cardillo. Many of you know Beth. Beth was the executive director up at Armbrook for many years. She started at Armbrook shortly after I started working for the city, and I've been with the city now for over 20 years. But Armbrook at that time was a very muddy area. It was like just a big ground, and they brought Beth in right, at the groundbreaking, and she was doing that, and I ultimately ended up building the new senior center here. So we were both, wearing our hard hats at the same time. Beth had retired a few years ago, but Jayda said that in fact Beth was one of the ones that hired you. She was still there at the time. So Jayda, let's talk a little bit about what were you hired to do? Like, what is your job? What is a director of community relations
Great
do?
Question.
Besides come on shows like this.
My role in the community is really to help folks understand, Armbrook Village, what we offer, the services that we provide our seniors and our residents in the community. So, teaching people how to talk about us, right? And informing the general community on what it is we do and how we can help support either them or their loved ones. So, for example, if somebody has an aging adult in their life, whether it's a brother, sister, mother, father, whatever the case may be, they're looking into options. They're kind of looking for information, next steps. What do I do? Where do I go from here? They pick up the phone, hopefully they call Armbrook Village and they talk to me. And I kind of guide them through the process of, okay, this is what we do here. This is how we can help, I gather some information about their current situation, see where they would fit in best with our community, how we can support them specifically in their individual needs. Okay. And then I help them through that move-in process and then make sure that they settle in okay. I always joke that there's like a social work aspect to my job and my role, and
of course,
a little bit of a therapist role as well, because it's a huge decision, whether or not you're the person moving into senior living or if you're making that decision on behalf of a loved one. It's incredibly challenging. So it's important to have a guide through that every step of the way, and that's a lot of what I do. And also community outreach. So going on shows like this, again, talking about Armbrook Village, leading different educational, presentations. I've done some at local senior centers, rehabs, hospitals, things like that.
Okay. So let's start with sort of your, kind of quasi-presentation, but tell us about Armbrook Village. Let's start there. Like, how many residents? How is it broken up? What could people expect? Who would be appropriate for a move to Armbrook? Let's start with that.
Great. So we're a mid-size community. We have 122 apartments total. Okay. We have independent living, assisted living, and we have a memory support neighborhood as well for folks with dementia and Alzheimer's. Okay. So who's appropriate for assisted living? I guess, we'll start there because that's the bulk of our community. I'd say anybody who is living at home, right, an older adult, age 65 and older, but our average population is probably, in their early 80s.
Okay.
And they're just, maybe they're struggling physically at home. Some of the first things we see when somebody moves into Armbrook Village is they may be having, struggles socially, right? Like getting out, maybe they stop driving and so it's hard for them to get around and it's hard for them to continue to see people and meet up and do X, Y, and Z. And something that COVID kind of really taught the industry was that social isolation is very dangerous for the aging population. So that's my favorite part about what we do is, bringing people together, providing that social model for folks. We have very vibrant programming in the community. We offer transportation services to and from errands, doctor's appointments, church services here in Westfield. So we, really take pride in still making folks feel like they're really integrated into the community and like, our residents say it's like a cruise ship that never leaves port, right? There's always something to do, and there's always an opportunity to meet people and socialize, which is so important for your brain and your cognitive health. Another reason why somebody would be appropriate for assisted living, aside from the social aspect, would be, probably the more obvious, right? Like the physical limitations of living at home by yourself, taking care of a house, taking care of a yard, cooking your meals every day is very difficult. Sorting out your medications, some of our residents, maybe they require some help with some personal care, So those are things that we all really focus on. And our goal at Armbrook Village is actually to keep residents as independent as possible for as long as possible, whatever that looks like to them, because independence looks different to everybody.
Yeah, it absolutely does look different to everybody. I think the other thing that I see a lot is certainly there's the physical aspect with somebody, having some difficulty there, but even things like, just the, property maintenance and, now I got to get somebody to mow my lawn, or I have to get somebody to shovel my driveway, or I've got to get, or, you end up with somebody. Can I cook? Yes, but who wants to cook for one person?
Difficult.
What I mean? So it's not always that somebody can't do something. It's that they're not doing it. And then that starts to create, the other problems. If you're not cooking for yourself because I don't want to cook for one because now I'm widowed, whether it's male or female, and I no longer drive, or I'm no longer comfortable driving. Some people give up driving on their own because they're just not comfortable doing it. It gets overwhelming. We got, lights all over. There's just more traffic.
Yeah.
In the old days, Western Mass didn't have a lot of traffic. Now everybody's got a lot of traffic. So I think it's all of those things. Certainly the socialization aspect is tremendous. And I think that, I hear from families when they're most concerned about, especially mom or dad, it's that social piece, it's that they're in their house, they're maintaining, but they're not thriving.
Right, exactly.
And who wants to just like maintain and exist? You want to live. You want it's that quality of life.
Exactly.
So I think that's part of it.
And quality of life is our number one right value as an entire organization, So we don't, being a social model, right, we're not a medical model, which I think is a common misconception about assisted living. We offer different, therapeutic, non-pharmacological, and holistic ways to help treat our residents and kind of what they're going through on a day-to-day. Like, for example, our Brain Healthy Cooking program. Brain Healthy Cooking is modeled after the Mediterranean diet, which has been scientifically proven to slow the progression of Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia and just kind of be the best lifestyle for your entire body, the best diet you could have, as opposed to our Western diet. So we incorporate a lot of that into, our way of life at Armbrook. And it's kind of like the bulk of our nutrition program.
Yeah, that's been like that since the day you opened your doors.
Yeah.
And I can remember, and that was, again, back in the day when Beth Cardillo was around and started that was a thing back then. Like nobody had, the Mediterranean diet.
Yeah,
what
nobody
is that?
heard of it.
Nobody had really heard of it. Now it's more, it's more common. People are more familiar and I think more accepting. But at the time, I think Beth had a little bit of a battle with trying to explain to people this is looking at, as you pointed out, Jayda, sort of that holistic way of looking at lifestyle in general.
Yeah. And when you follow the Mediterranean diet consistently, right, and you start early, that's always better, it reduces your risk of Alzheimer's by about 54%. Yeah. So that's not a small statistic.
But it's also good for heart health and diabetes and all of those other problems that we have with our, as you pointed out, with our sort of typical Western diet.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I want to come back to something that you mentioned before and you kind of glossed over it, but I want you to hone in on, you talked about the difference between a medical model and a social model.
Yeah.
Explain that.
Yeah,
what do you mean by that?
I think a very common misconception about assisted living is that we're a nursing home, right?
Okay.
And that's really far from the truth. We're not a nursing home is what we call like a skilled level of care or a skilled nursing setting. You have doctors, you have nurses there 24/7 providing, bedside care, bed level care, treating folks, right? Armbrook Village and assisted living in general, that's not really what we're there for, right? We assist folks with their activities of daily living, whether it be medication management, assistance with bathing, dressing, grooming, meal preparation, the social model, really. So I think that's a very common misconception, especially for the older generation. And that's because assisted living is a very new concept, especially in Massachusetts. So, people don't really have an understanding of what it is until they come to Armbrook Village or they go see an assisted living community and they're like, whoa, this is not at all what I was expecting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it is. I've been in the field for a long time, 47 years now. And I say to people back in the day when I first started, if somebody was struggling at home independently, for whatever reason, whether it was I just can't maintain this house or whether I need help with just getting it out of the bathtub, other than that, I'm okay, but I can't do that for whatever. I got a bum hip, whatever. There weren't a lot of options. Your options were either you moved in with one of your kids or your kids moved in with you, or you went to a nursing home.
Yeah.
And there was nothing in between. We didn't have daycare. We didn't have social or adult day health. We didn't have assisted living. We didn't have all of those in betweens. And it was actually interesting. The way some of those programs got started was you had people in the sandwich generation, adults in the sort of the sandwich generation taking care of their children and now their parents. And some of the bigger names in corporations, who had money, saying, well, my mother doesn't need a nursing home. I mean, she needs help with showering, but she's perfectly capable, or she needs help with meal preparation because, my dad did all the cooking, or vice versa. My mom did all the cooking and now she passed. And so they were the ones who started saying, well, this is ridiculous. Like, we don't want to stick her in a nursing home. We don't want her moving in with us. We don't want to move in with her, but she needs some extra help. That became sort of when we saw home care services and again, what was offered through home care. Then we started to see daycare, adult daycare. Then we started to see assisted living, which was sort of that, we got this in between. Which really, filled the niche. And of course, now as the baby boomers, of which I'm one, we're all aging. We're all in our 60s and 70s and 80s now. The demand is there. So I think you're right. And even in this country, nursing homes they only came about in the 1950s. That's a relatively new model as well. And there's also a cultural piece. I live across the street from a family who's Middle Eastern, and she said it's very common to have multiple generations in the same household, helping out. Yeah. But that's not as common here in the United States. We had to come up with these other, some other ideas for helping to care for our loved ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Okay, it is 7:30. If you're just joining me, my guest this morning is Jayda Handzel. Jayda is Director of Community Relations at Armbrook Village here in Westfield. So we're talking about assisted living, the independent living. We haven't talked too much about the neighborhood, the memory unit, but we'll talk about that as well. Who's appropriate for assisted living? And when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about funding and costs and so forth, and all of that. We'll try to cover all of that with Jayda this morning. So it is 7:30. You are listening to WSFD 107.5 FM on your dial. You are watching cable channel 15 WCPC. In honor of the anniversary of the death of Abraham Lincoln, our 16th president, we're going to listen to Abraham, Martin, and John, sung by Dion. We'll be back.
Anybody here seen my old friend Abraham? Can you tell me where he's gone? He freed a lot of people people, but it seemed good they die young. You know, I just looked around and he's gone. Anybody here seen my old friend John? Can you tell me where he's gone? He freed a lot of people, but it seemed good they die young. I just looked around and he's gone. Anybody here seen my old friend Martin? Can you tell me where he's gone? He freed a lot of people, but it seemed good they die young. I just looked around and he's gone. Didn't you love the things that they stood for? Didn't they try to find some good for you and me? And we'll be free someday soon. He's gonna be one day. Anybody here see my old friend Bobby? Can you tell me where he's gone? I thought I saw him walking up over the hill with Abraham and Martin and
Underwriting for the community programming is provided by the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield, serving the youth of the Whip City and surrounding communities since 1969. For more information on the Great Futures Club for ages 3 to 5, happening weekdays, and the Club Teen Center for ages 11 and older, weekdays from 6:30 till 8 p.m., go online at bcgwestfield.org or visit the club at 28 West Silver Street. The Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield. Great futures start here. Want to know what's trending at Westfield Technical Academy? Join host Kevin Daly and Carol Groom to find out all things Tiger. Tiger Talk, Thursdays at 8 a.m. 107.5 FM WSFD. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 107.5 FM WSFD-LP Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:35. You are listening to WSFD 107.5 FM on your dial, and you're watching Cable Channel 15, WCPC. My name is Tina Gorman. I am your Wake Up Wednesday host, and my guest this morning is Jayda Handzel. Jayda is the Director of Community Relations at Armbrook Village here in Westfield. Welcome again, Jayda. So we're kind of talking all things assisted living, but also all things Armbrook Village, because I think it's important that people, not all assisted living is created equal. They all have their own sort of uniqueness, their own spin. And, it's just like any other neighborhood or housing development or whatever. You got to kind of find what works for you and fits your style and your niche. So let's start with, what do you think, and this is not your first rodeo in terms of working in senior housing, but what makes Armbrook Village unique? What would you say, Jayda? What are some of the things?
Yeah, so, when it comes to assisted living, we all kind of offer the same services, right?
Some of the basics.
Some of the basics, right? So when you tour places or you look around, you'll see a list of services, and those are pretty much the same. The pricing really doesn't, change that much. It's pretty everything's pretty much equal, but I think what makes Armbrook Village really different is, our focus on resident quality of life, valuing our associates, innovation, discovery, all of these things really go into making our organization and our community what it is. I'll just kind of throw out there, we were voted as an organization, the top place to work in the state of Massachusetts in 2025, and that was by the Boston Globe. And that's a huge accomplishment, right? And I think that when you treat your staff well, right, and your staff have longevity and they enjoy coming to work every day and they start to take agency in what they're doing and they're proud of it, that 100% trickles down to, the residents and how they're treated and how they feel, how the family members feel, right? And, I've gotten it before where people come in for a tour and they're like, there's just a feeling that I get here and I can't explain it. Well, I can, right? They don't know what it is, but we do.
Yep.
It is the sense of community that we really have in our community that is tangible right when you walk in the door. It's the programming, right? Like I mentioned earlier, brain healthy cooking, our enriched life programming, and we do, we have bingo and cards because you got to have that stuff, right? Yeah. But then in the fall, if you come to Armbrook Village, you'll see our residents outside, our enriched life director, Becca, who's amazing. And she can never go anywhere. She sets up Halloween life-size inflatables, and our residents are, they have huge slingshots, and they're trying to hit the inflatables with pumpkins, so it's just it's innovative programming. It's cool. And the residents always say they feel young again. They feel like kids, right? Yep. And it brings that back to them.
Yep.
When the adult children are coming to tour and I start talking about happy hour, they're like, whoa, when can I move in? Right.
Exactly.
They're like, oh, I guess I'm visiting, at 3:00 on Thursdays. So, it's not in a restrictive environment either. I think that is something that a lot of people have a preconceived notion about. People come in and tour and they're like, okay, what are your visitation hours? And I'm like, visitation hours, you come and go whenever you want.
This is your home.
Right.
So it's, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You have your daughter come and visit you whenever you want. You can leave and go to breakfast with her every Sunday morning like you did at home. That doesn't have to change. So, people can really come and go as they please. And
I think in the past, when I've had others on from Armbrook, you do have some residents that still drive. They still have their cars, right? So again, you come, you go shopping, you go, meet with your family.
We have residents that still drive, still volunteer, still work.
Yeah.
So it's not at all uncommon. They kind of go off, they do their own thing, and they come back for dinner time, and they get to enjoy it with their friends and, mingle with other residents, with the staff. And it's just it's a really great place. I tell my husband all the time, we're going there the second second we can.
Exactly. Yeah. I hear you.
Yeah.
They have a movie theater. That was what I was telling Jayda off air. I was like, I remember when I got the initial tour, that was the last room that the director at the time showed me. And I just kind of went, you got a movie theater in here?
Yeah.
It's a theater. I mean, it's small, but it's with the chairs and the whole thing. And I was like, okay, I'm in. I'm all in. Tell us about, I know at some assisted living facilities, you can kind of do a little bit of a trial. Mm-hmm. Can you do that at Armbrook?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a trial stay program or a respite stay program, as some might call it. And what's unique about Armbrook Village is we actually have no minimum. Okay. So, a lot of communities in the area, they have a 30, I've even seen a 60-day minimum at times.
I've seen a 1 week, I've seen a 2 week, I've seen a 30-day, I've never seen a 60-day.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, okay. So folks can come and try us out for literally, the weekend, right? Okay. To see how they like it and see how they feel about it. And it's a daily rate that you pay, right? Yeah. And you can kind of do whatever you want. And if you need services or care during that time as well, we provide it.
You can get that. So Jayda, can you just describe what are they apartments? Are they rooms? Are they, refresh my memory because it's been a little while since
of course. Back in there. Private apartments.
Okay.
Right.
And so what does an apartment consist of?
So in independent living, it's looks different from assisted living. So independent living, massive 840 square foot apartment.
That's a big apartment.
Yeah.
Wow.
Full kitchen, washer and dryer in the unit. We have studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom apartments. Most of our apartments have some sort of outdoor space, whether if you're on the first floor, it'll be a walkout patio. If you're on a higher floor, it'll maybe be a balcony.
Okay.
And, in assisted living, it's kind of the same format. It's maybe just a little bit condensed, a little bit smaller. Yeah. Kitchenette. Because at assisted living, we're preparing all of your meals for you.
Right.
You know, so there's really no need for a full kitchen. At that point, people don't want to cook anymore.
Right. But they do like their snackies.
They do.
You know, so you need a little something for your snacks.
There's a fridge. They can keep their favorite ice cream in the freezer, their Diet Coke in the fridge.
They have a microwave.
Yeah,
there you go. You can pop your popcorn.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah, bring a toaster oven, an air fryer, or a coffee machine, you know, whatever it is that, you know, you think you need. We do have, in our memory support neighborhood, we have what we call companion suites. But even our companion suites, you still have your own separate apartment from an individual, but you have a shared common area and you have a shared restroom.
Okay.
And we also have private suites in the memory care as well. So there's something for everybody. There's a ton of different floor plans and layouts. Yeah.
And what about like cleaning services?
Oh, yep. Taken care of. We offer that in independent living.
So you can leave your
living.
vacuum at home. That's I'm all about that at this stage of the game.
Yeah, I have somebody moving in today actually, and their son was emailing me last week like vacuum, mop. You know,
what do I need?
Don't even bother.
You don't
need it. Yeah. So
it's sounding better and better all the time.
I know.
And let's talk a little bit for a few minutes. Let's talk a little bit about the memory unit.
Yeah.
So what was sort of what's the premise of that?
So our memory support neighborhood, we refer to it as Compass. It's our Compass neighborhood for memory support is the full name in its entirety. It's a smaller environment. It is its own secured environment.
Okay.
So what that basically means is that it's a part of the community. You can access it from the community, but it's a secured space. So it's safe for folks that have, Alzheimer's, dementia, other forms of cognitive impairment. It's small. It's only 25 apartments, which is very intentional. That's by design, right? You want to have a smaller group of residents, when you're caring for folks that have those kinds of illnesses, diseases, whatever you
memory issues.
Yeah,
Exactly. Absolutely.
And
do they have separate programming? Okay.
Yep.
So they have their own programming, which is more appropriate for whatever their cognitive skills are at that point.
Correct. But it's like a variation of what we're doing in assisted living, right?
Yeah.
It's not completely different than what the other residents get to experience, but it's something that's modified to be therapeutic. It's modified to be failure-free. The last thing we want is residents feeling like they're thrusted into a program that's not suitable for their, cognitive capabilities. Because it's frustrating, it can feel challenging. It can discourage people from participating in programming, which is why I think memory care is so great. Something that our residents and families specifically, I think, struggle a lot with is like making the move from assisted living to memory care. And what does that look like? And when is my loved one ready for that? And it's not always the obvious, right? We don't only consider folks that are at risk for wandering or hazardous elopement should need to be in memory care. There's a social aspect of that as well, when they're no longer able to navigate the environment on their own, it takes away independence rather than reinforcing it. Whereas memory care, it's a much smaller neighborhood. Their world kind of shrinks a little bit, and it's much more manageable for them to navigate that independently than in an assisted living environment.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. There was something that you said that triggered, and now I have to remember what it is, which I'll do during the next break, which we're going to take in about 2 seconds, because there was something that you said, and I thought, I need to ask her about that. But I'll figure it out while we take this break. If you're just joining us this morning, my guest is Jayda Handzel. Jayda is Director of Community Relations at Armbrook Village. So we're kind of talking all about assisted living, but also what is unique to Armbrook, which is located here in Westfield. For those of you who don't know, it's up on the north end. It's on off of North Road.
Correct.
Right,
yep.
North
by
Road.
7Bs. Everyone knows where 7Bs
right
is.
by 7Bs, which, except for the older folks here, that used to be the Purple Onion. And they'll really remember that. It's like if you say that it's around the corner from what used to be the Purple Onion. Oh, I know where that is.
Right.
All right. We have one final song, one final break. You are listening to WSFD 107.5 FM on your dial. You are watching cable channel 15 WCPC, and so it is World Music Therapy Week. So we talked a little bit about that first hour. So I was curious to know: is there one song that is most used in music therapy? And there is, and this is the song. It's "You Are My Sunshine." So we're going to listen to the Johnny Cash version, but this is the song worldwide, but certainly in this country, that is most used by music therapists. We'll be back.
1, 2, 3.
The other night, dear, as I lay sleeping, I dreamed I held you in my arms. When I awoke, dear, I was mistaken. So I bowed my head and I cried. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. I've always loved you and made you happy, and nothing else could come between. But now you've left me to love another. You have shattered all of my dreams. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
Support for community programming provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. Visit bettsplumbing.com or 14 Coleman Avenue, Westfield. Public welcome.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday, every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio.
107.5 FM, WSFD.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 107.5 FM, WSFD-LP, Westfield.
Excuse me. Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:49. You are listening to WSFD 107.5 FM on your dial, and you are watching Cable Channel 15, WCPC. My name is Tina Gorman. I am your Wake Up Wednesday host, and we are wrapping up an hour with Jayda Handzel. Jayda is Director of Community Relations at Armbrook Village here in Westfield, up on the north end. And Armbrook, I'm trying to figure out do you know how old Armbrook is?
We just celebrated 13 years on April 1st.
Okay, I was going to say, it's got to be, because we celebrated 10 years at the new senior center, but they were into the building a few years before that, so that makes sense. So 13 years. And Jayda, I want to pick up on something that you just threw out at me off air as we were coming back in, just because I thought that was so interesting.
Yeah.
We were talking about music, and you were saying how interesting it is to be celebrating World Music Therapy Week this week. So what is this program that you just mentioned with is that on your memory, your compass?
Yeah. So we have Dr. Marilyn Mikapakunka, who is wonderful. She's an occupational therapist, and she is a vendor that we work closely with at Armbrook Village. And she will work with our residents either one-on-one or in groups. And a program that she launched, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but it's called Harmonious Generations. And we work with a local preschool, I believe a preschool out of Springfield.
Okay.
And they come in and we have rehearsals, and our memory care residents actually teach them, songs,
some of the old
just
songs.
Like You Are My Sunshine, or like My Girl, or even like nursery rhymes, things that they remember and kind of cling to. And it's so interesting how, we have folks in our memory care that are nonverbal.
Yes.
Right? And then you get them in that kind of environment, one where they're teaching, right? Because we have a lot of retired educators at Armbrook Village.
Sure.
Kids also bring out that side of people. Like intergenerational programming should also be something that's, studied in memory care too. But the music component, I think, is really what ties it all together. And, we have a series of different rehearsals over a span of, multiple weeks. And we have residents that look forward to the rehearsal.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, when are they coming back? When, when can we work with them again? And then, at the end of the program, they do, like a showcase for folks. So it's really cool. And it just really brightens up the entire community. Loves it.
Yeah. I have to say that's a first that I've heard of that one.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've heard of a lot of different stuff, but I think just some of those really creative kinds of programs are just I think, again, if you come back to what makes Armbrook unique, I feel like, having visited lots of assisted living in different states even. Yeah. But I think one of it is that it's really that body, mind, spirit, which is like the Springfield College thing. And Beth and I both taught there, but it was, just sort of that bringing that all together, as you mentioned before, Jayda, sort of the holistic plan. So, and some of the, what are still considered to be non-traditional sort of therapies, like music therapy, art therapy, movement therapy, you name it. There are so many different kinds of things that now are more accepted. But I think because Armbrook has been doing it for so long, for so many years, I think they were doing these things. They started this right from the get-go when they opened their doors. So I think for them, it's just part of the culture, as you said before, sort of part of the lifestyle there.
Yeah. And Armbrook Village, what I love about really working there and the team I work with is we do not shy away from innovation, doing things differently, breaking away from kind of the status quo to better the quality of life of their residents, because that really is the goal at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to, you sort of have three. You have independent living, assisted living, and then the memory care. How many apartments are there in the independent? So the independent living are just, those people, I'm assuming some are probably still working. Yeah. They come and go. They do their own thing. And how many apartments are in that section?
Oh, gosh. So we have 122 total, 25 in memory care, and then we have the 97 between independent and assisted living. Okay. I would say assisted living makes up about 60% of that.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. And then the independent living would be the rest of the population. But what's really great too is that the independent living and assisted living are not segregated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've worked in communities where you have independent living in one building and then assisted living in another. Right. And the reason why that is so great is because as you age in place, you don't have to leave your friends. You don't have to, get to know new people, new staff. It's new programming. Yeah. It's all the same. And so it really helps keep that kind of continuity, which is so, so important.
Gotcha.
We have actually a support group at Armbrook Village that I lead called Aging Honestly. And it's made up of all of our residents. And we actually talk about, the struggles of aging and the things that kind of come along with it, and loss of control, loss of independence, the role reversal that happens, between you and your children, when you get to be a certain age. And so something that we can do is make sure that we can remain constant for them, and the things that we provide can remain consistent, because that is really important.
Yeah, it's really, it's interesting because I run several support groups at the senior center, and that role reversal piece keeps rearing its ugly head, I would say, over the last 6 months, more than any other topic. Well, we have a lot of issues that we deal with in the group, but it's so interesting. And my seniors have such a great sense of humor about this. It's like, yes, well, my daughters decided this, that, and the other thing because they think that at this point, I can't make a decision as to, whether I, eat this or that or, whatever it is. Yeah. Sometimes it's really silly things. So, and of course, the other members of the group can totally identify with this. It's like, when was it that my kids, and, I think they all appreciate the fact that their children, and I keep pointing out, this is, your children care about you, they love you, they're concerned about you. But, they said, it's like, God forbid you fall, even if it's just like you tripped over something and suddenly it's like, oh my God.
They're like, Mom, that's it.
Put her in a nursing home, da-da-da-da-da. We have to, put her all on one floor, move the, and it's like, I tripped over something. I could have done that 10 years ago. It wasn't, that I have some kind of a disease that I can't walk anymore or anything.
Yeah.
But, it's really interesting.
It is. And I do really empathize with the adult child.
So do
because
I.
It is a impossible role to be in. And it's a fine line to try to teeter, right?
Yes.
Fostering independence and helping your loved ones stay independent, but also making sure that you do what's right for them, right?
Yeah.
And it's something that I think every adult child I work with really struggles with internally.
Sure.
And there's a lot of guilt surrounding it as well. And I don't envy them at all, but I know the residents, they're...
But, and in some cases, and there are some times where I'll have to point out to the folks in my support group, it's like, oh, whoa. When it's 3 falls in a couple of weeks, then we need to be looking at, well, is there an issue here?
Yeah.
Is it a urinary tract infection? Is it
Right.
something that can be treated?
Yeah.
I think from the older adults' point of view, it's just like, okay, they're going to change my life forever with something major that I'm not ready for that yet.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure you get a lot of people, contacting you about, sort of, is this something that I want to do? Is it not? So sort of in that I don't know stage.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And my biggest question for folks is, what does ready look like to you?
Okay.
I really like to ask that question because the older adults are saying, this is great. What you do is great here, but I'm just not ready. And I say, okay, what does ready look like to you?
I love that question,
What needs
Jayda.
to happen in order for you to make this change or make this decision?
I love
And
that.
I ask, and I say that to the adult children. They're like, yeah, this is great, but mom's not ready. And I'm like, she's probably never going to feel ready. Like, this is a huge decision.
Again, it depends on how you define ready.
Right, exactly.
What does ready mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes ready means, and I would point out, because I've done this with my own folks, sometimes ready means we have to be in a crisis. And
Right.
here's what I say to people. When you're in the crisis, your options are limited.
Absolutely.
Because if you're planning and you're thinking and maybe trying it out for a weekend or a week or 30 days or whatever, that's one thing because you have control over that. If you've already fallen and broken the hip, or, we have some other crisis that we're now dealing with, well, now they don't have a bed available. Well, now you're on, or you're just getting on a wait list.
Yeah.
So I think that people need to be very careful. And I love that question. How do you define ready? Because if you're pinning people down to, well, ready's when a tragedy happens, that's beyond ready.
Right.
Now we've skipped assisted living and we've moved right to the nursing home. And
Yeah, exactly. And I also find too, people are waiting longer, right, to make this kind of move. And what happens as well is you lose a lot of your personal agency. You lose a lot of your choice in the decision. The decision no longer becomes yours.
Yes.
Then your children are stepping in and they're like, no, mom, dad, this is not a conversation. This is not a decision you get to be a part of anymore. This is what's happening.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
when you wait too long, you also don't get to really enjoy all of the things that assisted living has to offer, like the movie theater, like the camaraderie, the outings that we do. They become challenging when you yourself are in a vulnerable state and you're trying to make this transition.
All right, so Jayda, we're going to wrap it up. And if people have been watching, they've been listening. If they say, you know what? I want to find out more. How do they find out more? How do they contact you?
Call me.
Jayda Handzel.
Yep. Ask for Jayda. Call Armbrook Village. You can call
and the
our
phone
main
number at Armbrook Village is like this ridiculously simple phone number.
Yep. It's 413-568-0000.
568. Now, everybody who lives in Westfield knows it's either 568 or 562 if you have a landline. So 568-0000. Ask for Jayda, or just say, I want to talk to the person that was on the TV show with Tina.
Yep,
there you go.
Exactly.
All right, you are listening to WSFD 107.5 FM on your dial. You're watching cable channel 15, WCPC. Thank you so much to Jayda Handzel, Director of Community Relations at Armbrook Village, for joining me this week. Coming up next is Everything Southwick. Doug Mogul is waiting in the wings, so I'm going to sign off, and I will see you next week. Have a good one.
Support for the community programming provided by the Dunkin'